Hello, me again. Just a quick one to look at the new Kid Cudi Greatest Hits album, The Boy Who Flew to the Moon Volume 1, which Cudi has since indicated that there'll be a second, the Volume 2 will be coming at the end of the year. Um, Actually, interesting to. It's certainly interesting for Cudi to be doing a greatest hits album, and he's certainly deserving of one. The amount of quality music he's managed to put out over the time he's spent in the industry, being uh, so relevant as he's been able to be over all this time. Um, and at this time as well, in kind of what is it's basically a career renaissance in a way, just of how he's kind of his music started to regain his success and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's an interesting time to release a greatest hits album now with the amounts of material there is to use, and while he's still pretty much at the top of his game. Um, and it'd be interesting to see that Volume Two will come out later, and that may have a reflection on why this track listing is the way it is, which we'll see. For the most part, for this album, we get a pretty much even divide of tracks from all of Cudi's released albums, um, including his collaborative project Wizards, which, even though this is a solo discography greatest hits, does make sense. I mean, they are essentially Cudi's songs. He does the vocals, so that makes sense. Um, Notably, none of the Kanye West stuff is on here due to their current relationship. So none of the Kids See Ghosts stuff is on here, which kind of makes sense as again a collaboration project, which isn't just Cudi's vocals, and quite a short project as well, so not a lot in terms of single work from there. There weren't any real official singles released from it. It also means that some of the other notable Cudi songs, which do have Kanye's involvement to the earlier in his career, Sky Might Fall, Make Us Say, Erase Me, none of them make it on there due to Kanye either being featured and or producing songs, which is a shame that they're not on here. But at the same time, there are enough genuine hit songs on here that it doesn't matter, and it is great to see just how many strong songs Cudi does have on here without Kanye's involvement. We have 18 tracks in total, sort of standard full length for an album. Goes slightly over its allotted time. We'll see. Each album essentially gets two songs from it, which is a bit of an issue, I feel, for some of the earlier projects, which are the more popular ones. Or certainly, I feel, the first couple of Man on the Moon albums are really what sets Cudi apart from everyone. Still really well acclaimed today. We do get some very strong singles off of there, Day and Night and Pursuit of Happiness. Clearly the biggest hits that Cudi has released, so makes sense for them to be on there. Mr. Rager is a reasonably big hit as well, so just get on there. Ghost is kind of the first of the more fan favourite album cuts to make it on here. We do have a bit of a combination of official singles and fan favourite tracks. And because I mean, Ghost certainly wasn't a single. It's a great song. I'm really happy that it made it on to this project. Maybe at the expense of some other more deserving songs, but I'm still glad to see it on here because it is a very well done song. Just What I Am from Innicud, great lead single, and Unfuckwittable, another more album cut than an actual song. It is quite a strong track, so I guess it makes sense that it would be a fan favorite. Just that King Wizards or Immortal didn't make it on. Revolutionary Evolution from Man and Moon 2, or Soundtrack to My Life from Man and Moon 1. None of them made it on, just some notable omissions. For Satellite Flight, we get Bowerman Jeans and Too Bad I Have to Destroy You Now. Forget what the title it actually is. It's quite a long title and also quite a long song, which considering how long the album does end up going, perhaps not the most ideal selection. Neither of these tracks were particularly singles. The album itself wasn't necessarily promoted in terms of singles, but it did have Going to the Ceremony and Satellite Flight were kind of the official singles from it, which haven't made it on here. But Bowerman Jeans is a great track and a highlight from that album, definitely. Too Bad I Have to Destroy You Now is an interesting selection, but perhaps not one I would have gone with. Then we get the Speeding Bullet to Heaven tracks, the title track Speeding Bullet to Heaven and Confused, which were essentially the singles from the album, so putting them on there makes sense. And they were quite comfortably the strongest songs from that album as well, so makes sense for them. Passion, Pain and Demon Slaying, we get the tracks Surfing and By Design featuring Andre 3000, both of them produced by Pharrell Williams. Surfing was a single, so that makes sense, and By Design clearly a fan favourite, and makes sense because the collaboration of Cudi, Andre 3000 and Pharrell all together, you can't go wrong with that. And these were again pretty much the best songs from the album. There was a lot of great tracks on that album, but these two in particular were quite strong and just great showcase of just the stuff that Cudi and Pharrell were able to do together. It'd be nice to see some more from them at some point in the future. Then we get I was forget about the Wizards stuff earlier. At least another benefit of this album is it's in chronological order, pretty much. It also makes more sense, I feel, for hits albums to be done chronologically. I can kind of see why from time to time they're trying to mix up and puts perhaps bigger hits first and then not lesser hits later on, or things like just to mix it around and things like that. But given our streaming era where you can just mix and match songs anyway, you may as well just have them chronologically. But yeah, so before so between Indicard and Man on the Moon 2, the Wizard tracks. Again, not the singles, which I think Teleport to Me Jamie was a lead single. I think Break was the other single. Again, they weren't necessarily promoted as strong singles, so I guess from that aspect you can see why they just decided to put certain other tracks on here, in terms of the in the form of the Dream Time Machine and Upper Room. I suppose they're the songs that people like best from the project. I don't know. I mean, Upper Room I only really remember for the controversy of using pussies in the lyrics when the rest of the rest of the album was clean, without any expletives. So yeah, that's the only thing I can really recall from it. I think there may have been stronger contenders from that album for here, but again, we'll see how things go. For Man on the Moon 3, we get Tequila Shots, Sad People, and September 16th. Tequila Shots was sort of a single, more by way of people streaming it a lot. Sad People, I guess it's a song that people like a lot. September 16th, I'm not mad at that making it on there. You know, it's fairly close to me. And it is certainly one of the stronger tracks from the album as well, I feel. Yes, again, other songs from there which I felt were more like singles. Surprised that they didn't make it on. Also, a bit interesting that we get 3 tracks from here, was the others all had 2, and I suppose in one sense it works that with it being the most recent album, it's the one that people have still got still taking songs from and streaming and making hits of and that kind of thing. But conversely, I feel it would make more sense to give the older albums more room, as as Man on the Moon 3 is fresher in people's minds. So bringing more of the older hits back for people would make more sense to me, I feel. Anyway, there's my 2 cents on that. But we close off with Love, an unreleased, previously an officially unreleased track, recorded for Satellite Flight and didn't make it for sample clearance issues, and so just kind of got released online between that and Being Put to Heaven. And I mean, I can kind of see as well with how Satellite Flight turned out, it perhaps wouldn't have quite fit on there anyway. But regardless, I'm so glad this has actually made an album now, and it's officially released as a song. It's such an epic sounding track. It would have made for a great single for any album, and of all the sort of unreleased, officially unreleased tracks of Cudi's, this is definitely one of, if not the strongest of them. So I'm so glad that this has made it onto an album. What's the future holds for Volume 2? Cudi has indicated that it's probably going to be more of the officially unreleased tracks, or songs that have been released between albums that haven't actually made an album yet, which again makes sense to have an album to put them on. I'm hoping we do get to see some more tracks from the older albums as well, though. Some of the singles which didn't make it onto here, or some of the again, more fan favorite tracks which didn't make it onto here. I'm sure there's plenty to choose from. If we're making two volumes of this, I imagine it's going to be the same length as this one. So yeah, plenty of material to use. And I mean, I don't know by that point, the next album, Intergalactic, should have been released. So will any of that material make it on? Considering it seems to like putting the newer stuff on there, we'll have to see. Um, but yeah, generally speaking, I'm very happy with this track listing. I think we'll have to see how Volume Two goes to be able to determine whether there was perhaps a track list which made more sense in terms of a best of greatest hits album. But yeah, the fact that Cuddy has released a greatest hits when not a lot of artists have been doing so lately, and certainly a guy who's been around as long and been so influential as Cuddy, it makes complete sense for him to have a hits album. And yeah, it's just a great way to be able to go over a lot of the older stuff together as well, and bring that more to light for a newer audience, which is the great thing about greatest hits catalog albums. So yeah, after and also with the A Kid Named Cuddy mixtapes or being re-released for streaming next week. I'd be interested to see if any of that makes it for a hits album. I certainly would have made an argument for some songs from there, particularly Man on the Moon. That would have made a lot of sense for that to have made it onto a hits album. But you will have to see how that goes, how that influences the hit albums, and for Volume Two, I suppose I have to see you then. See how that turns out. It certainly will be interesting to look at and see what stuff makes it for that one. So yeah, see you then.